Hey, how's it going everybody? Welcome to Freebeat, where I post new music-related content every single day, so if that sounds good to you, hit that subscribe button, ring that notification bell. Let's get started. Today we've got the Korg Volca Keys running into the Korg NTS-1. Now you guys have seen me use this setup before. I'm using the NTS-1 for effects with the Volca Keys, and we all know that the Volca Keys is a great little analog synth and it can sound really, really nice. Throw some of that Cathedral Reverb on there and even just by twisting a few knobs. You know, it's classic analog sounds really great. You can make it sound absolutely beautiful. It can make some killer bass lines, some awesome leads. You can even, with the poly feature, get some chords in there. Playing the built-in keyboard is a little rough. I do recommend using the MIDI in and getting an actual keyboard for it. But we're not going to be doing any of that today. Today I want to kind of make some wild and wacky sounds and some stuff that kind of sounds bad, I guess you could say, with this. I just want to kind of explore and see how far we can push the Volca Keys using the Cathedral Reverb on the NTS-1 that I just loaded on there a few days ago. A couple days ago I also posted a tutorial on how to load user-created custom oscillators as well as modulation, delay, and reverb effects to the NTS-1. If you haven't seen that video, click the link in the description. If you've got an NTS-1 and want to learn how to do that, it's pretty easy and there is some awesome stuff out there. But before we get started on our little sound creating journey, I do need to take a second and shout out one of my patrons today. We're going to be shouting out Derek Taylor. Derek actually just hopped on board supporting the channel, and we've already had a couple conversations, and I am looking forward to getting to know him better. So Derek, thank you so much for your support. If you'd like to become a supporter of the channel, just head over to patreon.com/freebeat. Let's get going on this. So I'm going to turn off the reverb on the NTS-1 for now. Basically on the Volca Keys, we're in poly mode right now. Let's go ahead and go to unison mode. That's going to put all three oscillators playing the same note. It makes it monophonic. I've got basically everything turned to the far left except for the sustain, so we can play it. And the filter cutoff is at about 3 o'clock or so. Again, so we can hear the notes that we're playing. So first thing we want to do is let's go ahead and detune our oscillators. Now typically, if you want it to sound really good, this is about as far as you'll go. Kind of fatten up the sound. But you might notice here our knob is only at about 9 o'clock and it can go all the way back around to 6. So I'm going to go ahead and hold the note down and then we'll move it all the way as far as it'll go. Should go back to about 6 o'clock. There we go. That sounds pretty terrible, which is kind of what we're after. I'm going to increase the decay / release to about, we'll say about 3 o'clock. A little more. Almost all the way. There we go. Gonna jump up an octave. Oh yeah. Alright, so now what I want to do is when I play the key, I want it to start ramping up to the pitch we need to be at. When I release the key, I want it to go back down. So to do that, we are going to use our envelope generator to control the oscillator pitch, which is this knob right here, the envelope generator intensity under the VCO section. So here as I turn this up, the pitch starts falling at the end, and that's because we have our decay / release all the way up. So if we want the pitch to ramp into it, we need to raise our attack knob. You can now hear that kind of scoop into it. And as I continue to increase the attack, you can hear that ramp getting longer and longer. If we turn off the sustain, now it doesn't hold in the middle, even if I hold the note down. So that's kind of what I'm after right there. We can actually speed that up a little bit by lowering the attack and the release. And you can use the envelope generator intensity knob in the VCO section to, I guess, control the intensity. But since we're going for the extreme, I'm going to max all of those. And I'm going to keep the sustain off. I like that quite a bit. I think that sounds pretty cool. So now that we're happy with that, let's move on to the LFO. Now, I want to send the LFO to the filter cutoff intensity. So before I do that, I'm going to raise the peak of the filter a little bit. There we go. Now let's use our LFO here on the cutoff intensity. So I'm going to slowly increase the cutoff intensity knob under the LFO section. And if you hear it kind of stopping and resetting, that's because our LFO wave shape is set to saw, which means it's going to go up and then stop, and then go up and then stop. So what we need to do is change it to triangle. So we hold function, press M5, which is going to change it to a triangle shape, which means it's going to go up and down. And the way that we increase that in speed is using the LFO rate control. So let's slowly bring this up. And as we do that, you can see that the filter sweeps become more and more frequent. Until it starts to get that cool effect. Now, if we keep going past that, we're going to get into the audible range, meaning that the low frequency oscillator, the LFO, is actually going to create its own pitch. And this is kind of where the basis of frequency modulation, FM synthesis, begins, especially when you start matching those pitches up. We are not going to try to match those pitches because we want this to sound as kind of funky and like gnarly as possible. So I'm going to bring it up almost to the max there. And then I'm going to bring the sustain up so I can actually hold the key down and hear where we are. Then I'm going to play with the cutoff intensity. And then I'm going to play with the cutoff itself. And the peak knob. And this is all personal preference. This is, you know, you can make it sound like whatever you'd like to. That's pretty funky. Let's go up an octave. Yeah. That's pretty neat. That's honestly a pretty cool sound too, with the LFO rate at about 3 o'clock or so. So what happens if we also bring up the pitch intensity? Well, because of how we have things set up, especially with the detune, it's going to be a little more subtle to hear. But it's certainly there. Especially when we mess with the rate knob. Just for the fun of it, let's turn the attack all the way off. Just kind of fire some of these off. And just to be clear, up to this point, all sounds have been coming exclusively from the Volca Keys. We have been completely ignoring the NTS-1. That's almost more of the sound I'm looking for. That's pretty neat. Let's go ahead and throw some Cathedral Reverb on there and see what happens. Oh, that's pretty nice. Knob B on the Cathedral Reverb is the cutoff. That's pretty sweet. That's very cool. Let's also put a flanger on there and just see what happens. We're going to max that and then go back to our reverb here. Definitely some outer space type sounds. Absolutely wild. Oh yeah, you can mess with the rate knob. That's awesome. That is pretty cool. All right, one more thing we're going to do is we're going to switch the play mode here, the oscillator mode, to poly ring. This is going to use polyphonic ring modulation, basically, which I'm not super familiar with. All I know is that it sounds absolutely wild. Listen to this. Ha! That was very cool. That was a lot of fun. I'm going to share one last little tip with you guys here. If you do have one of the analog Volcas where you can't really save presets, of course, you can take your phone out, just snap a picture of where you were. Now I can just pull up that little picture there if I ever want to recreate that and get right back to it. I use that all the time with the Volca. I use the Volca way more than you guys probably know off camera. I did a lot of the Halloween show sounds on the Volca Keys. So yeah, awesome piece of gear. Absolutely love it. Killer combo with the NTS-1. To be honest, we probably did not need the NTS-1 for this video. I was able to get way more than I thought out of the Volca Keys, and it just shows if you sink some time into it, there is a lot to unpack in this little budget analog synth. Since people like prices, by the way, $149 US, $100 US, both pieces of gear are outstanding, and I recommend both of them. Unless you already have a powerful analog synth, then you can probably skip the Volca Keys if you already know what you're doing there, but especially for learning, this was my first analog synth, and it taught me a lot, and I absolutely adore it. And the NTS-1, you guys know how I feel about that. So I hope you enjoyed this strange little episode. If you did, go ahead, leave a like on the video. If not, you can leave a dislike. That's okay too. Doesn't hurt my feelings, just makes me try that much harder next time. Either way, be sure to hit that subscribe button, ring that notification bell. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye.